What is going on, guys? Welcome back to We Want Picks. My name is Jacob, aka the Freckled Saddler Man. They're here to bring you a nice, cool, calm, and collected full card breakdown for UFC Atlanta. But before we get into this week's breakdown, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you are new. Make sure you go to WeWantPicks.com, become a premium member today. Only $10 a month. Angela's been absolutely killing it. Safety parlay's been up, 7 of the last 8 weeks? 8 of the last, I don't know what 7 of the last 8 weeks or something like that. Lock of the week hit once again. I'll be honest, full transparency. My picks were pretty decent last week until we got to the main card. A few of those were some biased picks, and we got some biased picks on this card as well, but I'll always be fully transparent with you guys. I got smacked in the mouth last week. A lot of it was because of Patchy Mix. Who the hell was that? That wasn't Patchy Mix. I knew the striking wasn't the best, but I thought he was going to give himself a chance to grapple. I don't know. I see Ryan Hall giving himself a chance to grapple. This motherfucker's looking silly doing Imanari rolls, but at least he's out there trying. He's fighting Ilia Taporia, just doing somersault after somersault. Let's see a somersault, Patchy. Let's see you give some effort. But we're going to bounce back in a big way this week. As I said, the lock of the week hit. Bet Sam had one of the best weeks I've ever seen. What was he? Up almost 5 units on only like 8 units bet, something like that. It's going to be a great week this week. I will be at UFC Atlanta. So if you guys are going, make sure you leave a comment below and let me know that you'll be there. And if you see me, make sure you say hello and be nice. Right? I'm a nice person. Make sure you come up and be like, wow, oh my God, you're a lot taller than I thought you were going to be. Whoa! Don't throw a punch. You're looking a little jacked, huh? You're fucking looking a little swole. Looking a little swole. I said this was going to be cool and calm and collected. Let's get right into it. First fight of the night. Vanessa Demopoulos versus Jamey Horth. Vanessa a little bit short notice. Going to be a little undersized in this matchup. Jamey Lynn is going to look absolutely fucking huge. Ginormous. Gigantic. It's going to look like Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. But the fight's going to be a little bit different. Jamey Horth's going to be the better striker. She should be able to get takedowns if she wants them. If she gets in trouble for whatever reason. I respect the toughness of Vanessa Demopoulos. And if she gets on her back and she's using that flexibility, throwing up those triangles, hitting some sweeps for some submission attempts, she might have those opportunities. But you saw Jamey Horth using some grappling. When she's using her grappling, she can hit some sweeps. She's going to be big down there. On top, she saw elbows in. That's going to be the biggest thing here. If you're on top of little Vanessa, you gotta keep. If you're on top of little Vanessa, you gotta keep those elbows tucked. Can't put your hands on the mat, or she's gonna armbar you. She's gonna armbar you. Could be a problem, but I think Jamey Lynn should be prying here. She's going to be the better striker. The length is going to give Vanessa issues. Vanessa's not going to be able to take this girl down. And Jamey Lynn shouldn't even need her wrestling. But if she does, she'll be big enough on the ground. I like Jamey Lynn here. Minus 400, I don't know. Could be the play. Maybe a little parlay piece. Who knows? I'm taking Jamey Horth. Jamey Horth. Next one. Phil Rowe versus Ange Loosa. Philly Fresh. Former lock of the week. This is going to be a little bit of a biased pick, but I'm going to break it down scientifically. Phil Rowe was my lock of the week versus Nico Price. Nico almost had Phil Rowe out of there. Boom! Big left by Phil Rowe. One of the greatest lock of the week reactions of all time, sitting here right here in this chair. Philly Fresh came back and won that fight. Philly Fresh is a very good striker. A powerful striker when he goes. The issue is sometimes he starts slow and slow. When he gets you against the fence, he's going to be... that Neil Magny fight drove me insane. Because I said, all you got to do is back Neil Magny up and then just fucking box him. He backed Neil Magny up, started box him, and then just crashed into the clinch. You can't do that. There's going to be an issue here for Philly Fresh because Ange Loosa is going to bring that pressure. You saw that fight versus Reese McGee. Brings that pressure, gets inside, gets a clinch, gets the takedowns, wears on people. Philly Fresh has to come out sharp early. Has to withstand the wrestling early. And in space, he's got to make Ange pay. You can't just hang out in space because that's where your advantage is. So if Ange is hanging out in space, which I don't expect him to do very often, you have to capitalize in those moments. Throw those combinations. Show him those uppercuts when he wants to close the distance in the clinch into the level change. I got to go Philly Fresh here because he is the better fighter. He's got wrestling in his own right. You saw him hit a little bit of a sweep versus Jake Matthews. Finished the fight on his back, which you don't really love to see. Ange Loosa has a concrete head, and he can go kind of nonstop for 3 rounds, so this is going to be a tough one. I know those odds are closing, and I know I'm picking Philly fresh. It's going to be a little bit of a biased pick, but he should be the better striker. Should be an interesting fight. Philly coming off a year layoff. He's my boy. And I always stick with my boys. Philly fresh gets it done. Next fight. Ricky Simón, huh? Ricky Simón and Charles Jourdain. Ricky Simón off that big knockout. But before that knockout, didn't look great. Entries were a little bit sloppy. Striking was a little bit sloppy. He almost looked a little bit lost in there. Compared to Charles Jourdain, who'd he fight? Can't forget. Can't remember. Charles Jourdain, I see it in my head. Let me click this real quick because we're doing this in the moment. I don't have fucking notes. Victor Henry, that's who it was. He was getting taken down a little bit. Reached over and found that guillotine. Remember, I do this all at the top of my head. Not reading a script. We're not script reading like Angelo. I'll say it every week. Angelo's got a script. He just sits here and fucking reads it. Started adding in a little bit of improv, right? You'll see him do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? Shake the belly, truffle shuffle. I'm top of the head. Charles Jourdain in that fight, remember, he's only 29, 30 years old, something like that. He was pretty dialed in the striking, kept the distance. Instead of being, it seems as though Charles Jourdain has realized that you can't just be the wild tough guy and win at the top level. Has started to dial it in. Even in that John Silva fight, he was getting some takedowns, looking pretty decent. Until John Silva found that uppercut. Ricky Simón is a durable guy, pressure fighter, has takedowns, has decent power, tough son of a bitch. But I'll be honest, man. I think Charles Jourdain right now is a little bit more refined. He's gonna make him scramble. You saw Victor Henry even in that top position. Charles Jourdain is always fishing for something, always looking for something, striking from the bottom. And Victor Henry's a pretty good scrambler. And Charles Jourdain was able to get it done. Ricky Simón's gonna be taking shots. Charles Jourdain is gonna be threatening that neck. Just like something is threatening my eye right now. And I think he's gonna be the better striker. Can Ricky Simón land a big shot? Sure. Can he grind those takedowns out to a victory? Sure. But as an underdog play here, I'll be damned if I'm not going to pick Charles Jourdain because I think he's starting to become an actual contender in this division. And you might see that against Ricky Simón. Ricky Simón's lost to some good people. I was on Vinicius as my lock of the week versus Ricky Simón. Vinicius nearly snapped his fucking leg in half, either checking or throwing a leg kick. I can't remember. Charles Jourdain's going to be throwing those leg kicks. If those start adding up to Ricky's going to be in trouble. Charles Jourdain's going to be good in the scrambles. I'm taking Charles Jourdain. Long story short, let's move on. Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. Jose Ochoa versus Loner Kavanaugh. Had his moments. And you saw, when he goes, he ready, he can go. He took his time, controlled the octagon, young kid, confident kid, does some capoeira shit in there. We're going to see if Cody Durden improved that gas tank. Because this is a fight for Cody Durden to come in and just wrestle. And if he's improved that gas tank, I believe against a young kid like Charles Ochoa, who has some wrestling, who has some grappling. You saw that when he kind of hurt Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh took a shot, spun around, grabbed the back, threatened a submission towards the end of the round. I don't think he's going to be able to do that against a guy like Cody Durden unless Cody starts getting tired and slowing down like you saw against Joshua Van. That Joshua Van fight, remember, I think Cody Durden broke his face in the first round, something like that. He's a tough son of a bitch. He's always going to be there. And if he's improved that gas tank, he can come in and maybe even dog walk this young kid because it's kind of hard to see, right? Charles, Jose Ochoa as a 2-1 favorite coming off a loss when that's all you really saw. I know he had his moments against Loder, and you saw the striking. He's a big dude as well. It could be tough against Cody Durden. I will say, my pick for this, I am going Jose Ochoa. Because it seems like his presence in the octagon, his confidence in the octagon, and I need to see Cody Durden improve that gas tank before I can actually pick him from now on. If he comes in wrestle, and he's doing that for 2 or 3 rounds, he's going to be a fucking problem because his hands are there. Although he's been chinned in the past. Long story short, I'm going Jose Ochoa. Big dude, striking. We'll see if he gets buried early, but, the gas tank worries me a little bit for Cody Durden at this point. He's been my lock of the week a couple times. I'm going off from now. No disrespect. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets it done, but I'm going Jose Ochoa on this one. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Kris Moutinho. People love Kris Moutinho coming back to the UFC, right? Sean O'Malley was smoking him. 3rd round TKO. One of the easiest lock of the weeks of all time. Kris Moutinho, after getting the fucking cunt beat out of him by Sean O'Malley and standing TKO'd, was a favorite versus Guido, a 40-year-old. And I was like, I mean, this guy Guido hits fucking hard. Kris Moutinho, I know he got the... People are saying he did okay versus Sean O'Malley. Got the absolute fucking shit beat out of him. I had Guido as my lock of the week versus Kris Moutinho. That was pretty easy. Remember, he got knocked out. People think this guy's a crazy durable guy. I know he left the UFC and he fought some regional guys. He's 5-0 since then. They wanted Wellmaker on this card. And they said, hey, is there a hittable guy at 135 that we can find to fly to Atlanta, Wellmaker's hometown, to get him a big finish? And they sat around and they said, who's a hittable guy that we know of, that we know is hittable, that's been finished in the first round, that we can fly in? Do we still have Kris Moutinho's number? I think he gets smoked. And that's no disrespect. I just don't think it's a UFC level. And maybe he comes in, he has some success, shows off that toughness that he showed against Sean O'Malley. But Wellmaker's a little bit different, hits a little bit harder. This seems like a setup fight. They know Kris Moutinho's a hittable guy. He's a tough guy. Maybe he makes this fun, but this should be a Wellmaker play. There's no doubt about that. I think it happens. Could look like the Jekka fight. Right? How about that call? Under 2 minutes, under 1 minute? I don't know. I'm going Wellmaker, though. Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. Odds reflect what I feel about this fight. Michael Chiesa is good enough in the striking with a guy, Court McGee, who isn't crazy dangerous. Not really one-punch power. And Michael Chiesa should be the better wrestler, should be the better grappler. I know that's kind of what Court McGee does. And maybe he's able to weather the early storm of Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa starts fading and Court McGee can win those positions in the second and third round. Maybe. I don't know. I'm picking Michael Chiesa because he's the more dangerous guy. He should be the better wrestler, should be the better grappler. The odds reflect that. Am I going to put money on a Michael Chiesa at 37 years old, who I think is already retired once and then came back? Absolutely not. Maybe in the moment. You know, maybe if we're feeling good, we just want a bunch of money off a Wellmaker first round. I don't know. But Michael Chiesa should be able to get it done. He's a better wrestler, better grappler. But the pressure from Court McGee, if he ends up on top early and starts wearing down, it could get interesting. I'm going Chiesa. It just is what it is at this point. Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. Let's get it out of the way. I'm going Paul Craig. A little bit of a flyer, a little bit of a Hail Mary, but Rodolfo Bellato just seems like that type of blockheaded guy that's going to be like, well, I can grapple with this guy. I'm Brazilian, bro. Dude, I can grapple with this guy. I'm going to go to the ground with Paul Craig. And maybe he can. And maybe he does and gets him down and just TKOs him or does whatever he does. Because you know what's going to happen? Paul Craig's going to do his thing back at 205, throw the big shots, maybe get hit, maybe get stunned, pull guard. But Bellato just seems like that guy that's just going to fall in a Paul Craig guard, posture up, throw the elbow, overextend, and like, and get thrown into a triangle. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'll take Paul Craig. He's a former lock of the week again. A little bit biased, maybe. I don't know. But Bellato just seems like a guy that's just going to get submitted in a meme way. Next, Alonzo Menifield versus Oumar Sy. Oumar Sy. Guy's pretty good, well-rounded. KO, submissions, decision wins. Last time really kind of settled into the fight versus Cheng Sung, whatever the fuck his name is. I'm not going to spend the time looking up. You know what the fight is. Alonzo Menifield just isn't a top guy. This just comes down to Alonzo Menifield is talented. He's got offensive wrestling, defensive wrestling. He's got decent power. His chin failed him at times. He's just not going to have the speed on the feet. He's not going to have the size. Alonzo Menifield is 6 foot 205, and this guy Oumar Sy about 6'4", 6'5". Look about the same size as Dung, whatever the fuck his name is, and that's a big fucking 205er. And he's pretty calm and casual. If he was a guy, a big prospect that was a first round guy, and he, you know, I felt like Alonzo could kind of weather that storm, even though I don't know if Alonzo can do that at this point. I might worry a little bit because Alonzo does have a lot of experience, fought a lot of good people, but Oumar Sy should be good enough in the striking, should be able to get to the wrestling if he wants to. You saw Jimmy Crute. I know Jimmy Crute kind of had that bounce back, but back in the day when Jimmy Crute wasn't really Jimmy Crute, that he is now, was taking down Alonzo Menifield. Oumar should be better everywhere. Obviously, crazier things have happened than a 205 Alonzo Menifield, knocking somebody out or finding a win. But Oumar's the better fighter in the striking, the range, the wrestling. He's pretty composed in there as well. So I'm taking Oumar's side. Should be an easy pick. Next fight on the main card as well, we got Cody Brundage versus Mansur Abdul-Malik. Disclaimer, guys. Okay? Disclaimer, because I don't want anything about anything. Cody Brundage is a friend of mine. I am picking Cody Brundage, not just because he's a friend of mine, but there is no way in hell. People are going to be like, he's just your friend. It's just a This is a biased pick, but I'm telling you right now, there is science behind it. Mansur Abdul-Malik is a good fighter. And if Cody Brundage gets on his knees, is on his back, against the fence, with Mansur on top of him, he's probably going to get his fucking head smashed in. Because that's how Mansur beats people. There's no fucking, we don't know how the fight's going to go. If Cody Brundage pulls an Anthony Smith and just stays on his knees against the fence, he's going to get his fucking brains beat in. He knows that. I know that. Mansur knows that. Angelo knows that, surprisingly. Every single person that's watching the video knows that if Cody Brundage is on his knees against the fence, he's going to get his fucking head smashed in. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think they're going to get there. People underestimate the athleticism, the defensive wrestling abilities, and the striking of Cody Brundage. He's going to be the better striker. He's going to be the faster striker. He's going to be the better athlete. He can wrestle just as good as Mansur. Mansur doesn't even really shoot takedowns. He waits for you to counter wrestle. He waits for you to wrestle so he can counter wrestle. He's been chinned before. I know he's undefeated, but he's been wobbled by people much lesser than Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage hurts almost every single person he fights. He's got good hands. And finally, he came back in this last fight. It looked like, here we go again. I was at that fight. Remember, Cody's a friend of mine. Right? And every single person was like, here we go again. Got hurt a little bit against the fence, came back, mentally overcame that obstacle that he has not been able to overcome in his career. And I'm telling you right now, when I'm talking to this guy, he's talking different. Little pep in his step, getting that confidence back, that self-belief. And I love it going in this fight because Mansur is a low-volume, non-powerful striker. I've seen a lot of comments talking about Cody can't stand in front of this guy. Oh, because he can't stand in front of this guy. Mansur lunges into the shots without footwork, telegraphs those shots, and isn't even really a one-punch puncher. He's got good wrestling, but doesn't really shoot takedowns. He waits for you to shoot the takedowns, and then he will counter wrestle. If Cody just stays at space, get those calf kicks going, wait for Mansur to lunge in with those telegraph shots that he doesn't set up, little step off, little right hand, get back to space, push Mansur back, just stay out of the wrestling. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Footwork is going to be key for Cody. In and out, switch stances, that Factory X style. Because Mansur just kind of plots forward. He does get hit. He doesn't have crazy power. He doesn't really offensive wrestle. And he doesn't really look confident until he's on top of you and getting ready to land some big shots. Until then, he looks a little bit unsure of himself because he knows he's not that level of striker yet. There's nothing wrong with that. He's still a little bit of a prospect. And if you don't have the striking to set up the shots, you're going to be in trouble. Cody Brundage is going to win this fight. Let's move on. Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. Another situation where I think it's going to be footwork. Oh, I fucked that up. Don't write a comment about it. Footwork. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? No way Ange could do that bullshit. I know that Raoni looked great against Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot was a little bit overwhelmed. Peyton Talbot is a flat-footed power striker. He was a tall guy that just kind of stands there. So the entries were pretty easy for Raoni. And for whatever reason, Peyton seemed like he didn't realize that Raoni could wrestle. Cody Garbrandt knows what's going on here. Remember, Cody Garbrandt's got good wrestling. He is a wrestler. He was a high school wrestler. I know he doesn't have the accolades and stuff, but he knows how to wrestle. And Raoni's not going to be able to find a guy like Cody Garbrandt The way he was able to find a guy like Peyton Talbot, who already is a little bit planted, a little bit taller, looking for the big shots. You know, Cody Garbrandt is here. He's here. He's here. He's there. He's a hard guy to find with that footwork. This, to me, and I was at the fight, is going to look like the Trevin Jones. It's Trevin Jones, right? Trevin Giles is the welterweight. Trevin Jones at 285, where it was a boring fight. Cody Garbrandt just danced around the outside. Just touch, dance, right? Touch, dance. If Hani's not getting the takedowns, he's not going to win the striking. I don't think he's going to knock out Cody Garbrandt, although people love to say Cody's got no chin at this point. But the footwork, the speed of Cody Garbrandt, it's probably going to be boring. Dance around the outside, win the decision, is what it is. I got to take Cody Garbrandt in this fight. I don't think the wrestling's going to be there like people think it's going to be there. Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. Talk about clash of fucking styles. I'm not picking Andre Petroski because even if he wrestles, he's just like a lay and pray wrestler. And maybe he's able to find a submission versus a guy like Edmen who can slow down, who can get submitted, especially when you start wrestling and grappling. I think the entries are going to be a little bit sloppy for Andre. And Edmen has shown that there's one thing this guy can do. He fucking knocks people out. And Andre's a pretty sloppy guy. You even saw in that fight versus Rodolfo. Rodolfo was fucking kind of lighting this guy up. Edmen Shahbazyan with the kicks, which I wouldn't throw a ton of those because he might get taken down. With the sharp punching, you saw that Dylan Butka, boom, 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 that pull right hand right on the fucking button. I've kind of been an Andre Petroski hater. If he comes in and gets an early takedown in the first minute or two, could be an Andre fight. Wear this guy down, do what he does, because Petroski, if there's one thing he's good at, if he gets on top, he's not afraid to just be fucking boring and just wet blanket somebody. And if he does that, especially early, it's going to be hard for Edmen to kind of find his way back in the fight. But I got to go with Edmen here. Andre Petroski, a little bit sloppy with those entries. A little bit too willing to strike. And I got to imagine Edmen, every single fight, should be able to clean up the wrestling. It seems like he's starting to clean it up more and more and more. Feels like Edmen's going to knock this guy out, but we'll see. Either way, I think there's probably going to be a finish. Co-main event, Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. This is a very interesting fight. And to me, you have to ask yourself, 3-round fight, is Miranda Maverick an Erin Blanchfield? Or is she a Tracy Cortez? Erin Blanchfield was pretty resilient. And remember, if this was a 3-round fight, Erin Blanchfield lost that fight. She lost the first 2 rounds and then was able to pick up the pace and pressure. Tracy Cortez, who I think is stylistically similar to a Miranda Maverick. Lackluster in the striking, okay with the wrestling, but also can get counter-wrestled. And you saw Rose in that fight drop her in the first round and then start using her own counter-wrestling, especially strategically. Second round, 15, 20 seconds left, shot a takedown, got a takedown in a closer round versus Tracy Cortez to kind of seal that round. Miranda Maverick, I haven't seen the improvements in the striking. And there's not going to be those extra rounds for her to really get the wrestling going. Not that she has the 5-round experience that we've seen to do that, but that's how Erin Blanchfield was able to win that fight. Rose looked pretty good against Tracy. Like I said, dropped her in the first round, was counter wrestling. If I was Rose in this fight, I would shoot a takedown almost immediately. Let her know, hey, I can wrestle, I can grapple too. And let her think about that and use that to set up the striking. I just don't think the takedowns are going to be there for Miranda. She's going to really struggle in space versus striking of a girl like Rose. So I understand the odds. I like Rose in this fight. If Miranda was a complete dog like Erin Blanchfield and this was 5 rounds, we've seen kind of Rose slow down. I was at the fight. I saw Amanda have some success in the wrestling and the grappling, but Rose isn't a girl that really kind of gets held down. She understands the importance of winning rounds. You saw that in Tracy Cortez fight. She's going to be the way better striker. And what do I always say? Pick the better striker in a mostly striking matchup. That's going to be Rose in this one. I'm taking Rose. Main event, Buckley versus Usman. Usman hasn't fought in a couple years. Had a pretty good performance versus Chimaev. I was on Usman in that fight because I knew that he had those defensive grappling abilities. In this fight, that shit doesn't really fucking matter. And Usman really didn't do much except for look good defensively off the couch against Chimaev, and that was 2 years ago. Buckley's going to have the speed advantage, Gonna have the power advantage. Is there a world where Usman can kind of weather that early storm in the first couple rounds, use experience, and kind of hold him against the fence in the third, fourth, and fifth round? It's possible. We saw Colby kind of almost weather that storm and got a takedown, started having the control. The difference is, I don't know if Usman is getting a takedown versus Buckley. I think Colby was a little bit more sold out for that takedown to be able to get that. I don't think Usman's there in his career anymore. Buckley got a little bit overzealous chasing the finish. I think Buckley's going to have a little bit more respect for a guy like Usman. Buckley came in, didn't respect Colby. Almost found the finish. Obviously did find the finish, but almost found an early finish. Wanted to really make a statement. It seems like a main event in this spot in Atlanta against a former champion like Usman. I think Buckley's going to have a little bit more respect, a little bit more touch and go. If he crashes in and Usman lands a shot, obviously we've seen Buckley been flatlined before, not at 170, but it's definitely possible. But Buckley, his counter wrestling's going to be there. We'll see if he comes in with a wrestling game plan, which I think is going to be done versus a guy like Usman, but maybe it's just going to be a speed advantage. Speed, touch. Usman's going to look a little bit lackadaisical at times. The counters aren't going to be there that they once were. 2-year layoff, older guy. I got to go Buckley in this matchup. This has been the full card breakdown for UFC ATL. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you are new. We1Picks.com. Only $10 a month. We're bouncing back this week. Bet Sam's been killing it. Angelo's been killing it. Lock of the week this week is going to be on fire. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out of here. Peace.